All right, guys, welcome back to the Believe, Be Real, Be Bold podcast. Once again, in the house, my favorite Hindenburg, the king of awkward, Neil Merritt, who hosts the I Wish I Was Dead podcast, figuratively.
How's it going, Dave?
So we got cut off there because neither one of us are very technically savvy. And we were in the midst of just catching up on what's happened since the last time you and I talked on the BBR podcast. What's new?
Oh, just living my life, being as awkward and offensive as possible. It's what I do.
And that's what the I Wish I Was Dead podcast is all about, offending people in a slightly appropriate or inappropriate way.
Oh, always inappropriate. Like I like to be called the bad influence of every group. So that's just kind of what I'm all about, And it's part offensive. It's part just awkward, crazy, cringeworthy stories. I mean, anything and everything that you can do to pretty much make someone feel uncomfortable and get a chuckle. That's what we're all about. So.
And what inspired you to start offending people in a slightly inappropriate way?
My personality.
Oh, so it's just kind of like the perfect fit for you.
It's like, why run from it or try to change something if it's ingrained in who you are?
You're into the skin.
Your authentic self. My authentic self is an asshole, and so I just go with it.
Well, I've enjoyed being a guest on the podcast a couple of times now. And if that's the case, then I don't know if I'm the right fit. Why are we even friends?
Because you're the oil to my water. You're the one that kind of puts it in perspective for me. Like I said, you're the authentic guy on one aspect. I'm the authentic guy on the opposite aspect, pretty much. You're the good guy. I'm the asshole. That's all there is to it. So.
Mm-hmm. Can you give me an example of how you're a little bit too much for people, or how your authenticity gets you in trouble, maybe at work or on the podcast?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a pretty blunt person, and I have no filter. And so a lot of times in my sales meetings and stuff at work, every once in a while, I'll call somebody a cockwaffle, or say something that's inappropriate, where it kind of has to shut down the whole team, and we have to reevaluate what is acceptable and responsible for workplace language. So I deal with that quite a bit. But I mean, in all seriousness, I've always been a person with no filter. I am an awkward person, but at the same time, I'm very authentic as it is as well. So it's kind of what you see is what you get. I know it kind of fits within your dialogue that you have with this, but not in the way I think that you kind of wanted. So
well, we are all welcoming, accepting, and non-judgmental around here on the BVR podcast, which I know disappoints you to the core.
A little bit. I need more judgment. I need more unaccepting, and maybe an F-bomb every now and then would be helpful. So
occasionally there's an F-bomb on the BBR podcast, but not nearly as many as on I Wish I Was Dead.
I bet fucking not. No. You would know. You've been on it a couple of times. You're actually our most reoccurring guest. I have people say that you're the Dr. Drew to the I Wish I Was Dead podcast. So
I'll try to take that as a compliment today.
Well, we'll go with it.
Somehow, some way, I think you're trying to offend me.
No, we're buddies. We're buddies. Maybe in a little half-hearted way, but you'll find out later.
It sounds like you've got some secrets, some withholds that you've been working on, and you're going to drop the bomb on me later.
Well, we'll see what happens. Let's see how creative I can get.
Yeah, normally we're meeting in person, and there's a special reason why we're on Zoom, and you wanted to kind of show me your home studio that's going to be soundproofed here pretty soon for the I Wish I Was Dead podcast.
Right. Yes, we finally cleared out a spot in my basement. Not creepy at all, especially if you've never been on the I Wish I Was Dead show and I take you down to a deep, creepy basement for a recording. But yeah, so we cleared out the basement studio. Here, I'll just turn it around right here. It's kind of a smaller room, but on that wall behind me, we will have our I Wish I Was Dead logo here. And then on these other walls, we're going to be putting some soundproofing stuff. So some big things have been going on with us. We've been growing pretty extensively in the past couple of weeks with our listeners. And, we just thought that we needed to move into a better soundproof state. So I do apologize that it's echoing right now, but, knowing you, you'll get over it. So.
Yeah, I move on pretty quickly. That's a lesson I've had to learn in my life about letting go as
Right.
the Enneagram challenger.
There you go. Oh yeah. Yeah. And is that what we're going to talk about today, is the Enneagram results and stuff that you asked me to take?
Yeah, since the last time we recorded, I think I convinced you to take the test maybe after the fourth ask.
Fourth or fifth. Yeah. I'm a hard sell. You know that. So.
Which is really kind of funny because as the achiever, I would think that you would want to jump right into a test.
It was partly that. It was partly me just being a smart ass given our relationship back and forth. It was kind of an eye-opening experience, actually, in all seriousness. Once I took it, I was pretty impressed, especially since people of the likes of like Oprah and Ellen DeGeneres and stuff are all fit within my field, and I feel like that I'm definitely amongst my own when you drop those names. So
sure. So you're kind of giving yourself credit for Oprah and Ellen being a lot like you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a couple years behind them, but they've been waiting for me this whole time. So
now, what were those key pieces of the type 3, the achiever on the Enneagram, that stood out at you once you completed and discovered that was your type?
Well, there's a lot of things that the achiever does. And this is going to sound really kind of opposite of what we were just talking about when we were explaining me and in my podcast. In all seriousness, there's things with the achiever that's they're definitely a people pleaser in a way where they're trying to use, whatever human contact in a positive force in order to kind of get what they want out of things, which I found to be really interesting because I do notice that in a lot of instances, dealing with people, not on the show, but just in everyday life, trying to get people to do what I want by, one, listening to them, engaging them, and using whatever I can that they're saying in order to kind of push my whatever kind of thought process that I want them to do forward, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting perspective as far as like pleasing people with your actions and activities and successes, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So if somebody at home, maybe in like your childhood or early teen years, was really praising you for a job well done, you took that as like a piece of yourself and like a part of your identity. And you're like, oh, well, shoot, when I do good, I get love.
Exactly. No, exactly. And I don't have my form in front of me, but just from when I was reading, it was really interesting. Once you do the Enneagram and you read the description and the results and stuff after you've taken the test, of course. Because while you're taking the test, some of the questions you're like, what the hell? I don't know. And you kind of just go through it. But once you read the description, you're like, holy crap. It like starts explaining like certain aspects about yourself that you couldn't describe into words, but exactly that's the way your actions and your mentality is set up. So, I mean, yeah, like I was a charmer growing up. I was a people pleaser. I was all these other things, but I was doing it with the mindset of, as long as they keep praising me, I can start directing them in a way where I want to go. And so it's something that as you get older, before this, I couldn't put it into words, but after I took the test, I was like, that's exactly what I do. Like whatever I can do to make someone happy with me, like me, love me, it gives me a little bit more influence on that person to go the direction I want to go.
So there's a little bit of control and manipulation in gaining the approval or seeking the approval of somebody else through your behavior and your success and your accomplishments.
Yeah, I could say, yeah. I mean, yes and no. I mean, there is a small intention there, but that's not the whole intent. So, but yes, there is an aspect of that I would agree with, that yes, every charming, nice person that you meet out there that you're like, wow, they're great. And then they hint to do something and you just start going along their way. I mean, you're kind of falling into putty into people's hands when it comes to that kind of stuff. And so
yeah.
Me being in sales, it works very well. So.
And that's your day job, right? You do some sales for describe what your day job is.
Yeah, I sell manufactured stone veneer. So stone, like brick and stone that you put on the outside of your wall.
Yeah, right.
So.
Okay, so these not in a prefabrication kind of a way, but like new build homes or remodels that are trying to spice up their curb appeal would contact you.
Correct.
So how does the achiever paired maybe with the offender
Well,
come out in your career? Like, are you driven? Are you career oriented? Do you want to be first place in everything?
yeah, like you do want to be first place in everything. Sales is actually a great fit for someone with this, with the number 3, I would feel, because you want to be top of your game, always 100%. And if you're not, if you're number 2 or number 3, no matter how well you're doing, it's still not good enough. But you're not uber competitive. You're manipulative competitive. Like, you're a manipulating competitive person. So you're not the one out there going, oh yeah, that's what I want. You're the one kind of sitting there going, okay, you son of a bitch. All right. You might be number 1 right now, but there's a way I'll knock you down and get ahead of you.
I
And
see you and I will undercut you and I will.
I got to be honest with you, and it's totally part of my mentality. Like, it's the thing about with me, like, I'm not a person that'll get in a major fight with you or something right up front, unless I'm being a smartass and I'm trying to be funny and make fun of you. But and this is going to sound bad, but it's the God honest truth. Like, I will figure out a way to get to number 1, and it'll be a sneaky, manipulative sideshow kind of way. And you'll wake up going, what the fuck just happened? And so it's just kind of like, I've done it before in certain aspects. I can't think of any exact opportunities right now, but I do know that, and I've had bosses tell me that too, that when you're a number 3, you're kind of you're a surprise once you get there. People don't expect it. They're like, holy shit, how the hell did you pull that off, kind of thing. So, and that happens quite a bit.
Sure. Is it hard to face that darkness, or do you actually like lean into it and kind of embellish it to win, get your reward?
Well, yeah, no, it's not. I mean, when I was younger, maybe, but now I'm 38 years old. And I mean, when the older you get, the more you stop giving a shit. So like, I stopped giving a shit a long time ago. It's not a selfish thing anymore. It's every man for itself. In my industry, and you're in sales, it's every man for himself. So if you get the sale, no matter how you obtain the sale, as long as ethically you're not doing anything illegal or shitty, but you however you win it kind of thing. So
At all costs.
at most costs.
At most costs.
Depending on the context, yes. So
yeah. Now, the more I get to know you, the longer we've known each other, the more oftentimes relationships come up. And you had a long-term relationship before you met your partner, Eric, right?
yes, yeah, Satan. I was engaged to Satan for 10 years. It was awesome.
It doesn't sound like awesome would be the word that I would lean towards.
Oh no, it was pretty horrendous. He was a narcissistic asshole. And given what we were just talking about with me and the number 3, there's a right way to do it and there's a wrong way to do it. Narcissists don't give a flying shit about anyone. They have no ethics. They have no control, even though that's all they want is control. And they will do whatever they can to destroy the person, whatever person's on their radar, in order to obtain what they want. And I dealt with that for 10 years. And it's just up until about 5 years ago that I've actually got my head back on straight and figured out what reality was again.
So it could have potentially sent you into like a whirlwind of emotional ups and downs during that relationship with a narcissist. Would you say that's pretty close to what you were feeling at that time?
Oh yeah. Well, and then it's gaslighting. Your whole relationship's all about gaslighting. So when you're with a narcissist, they're doing whatever they can to twist reality. They're saying things to you that sets you off. They're lying to you and making you think that once you find out that they're lying, that you're the one that's crazy, not them. And the only thing you can do with somebody that's going to be gaslighting you all the time is to get the hell away from them. But even after you get away from them, there's still a decoding period in your mind that you have to take, where you need to get completely decoded and back into reality to realize, yeah, just because someone was lying to you and you were calling them on it, you weren't wrong. You were just seeing the forest through the trees, or if someone's cheating on you and you see the signs, you're not wrong. They're actually doing it. you just need to realize that that person is manipulating you in whatever aspect they can in order to achieve or obtain whatever they want. And at the same time, they don't want you to go, but they don't want you at the same time either. So it's a really weird kind of dance that you do. So.
And and that can play a number on your mental health and your securities and your happiness as well.
Yeah, it took 2 years for me to feel normal again, and to actually for people to start making sense, and to actually do things like where I just felt good and normal again. But yeah, it's a good 2 years. No dating. I couldn't date anybody. And 2 years where I was batshit crazy if I did date. So.
Yeah, I can relate to that. My last relationship ended with some narcissistic tendencies and a guy on the side the whole time. And unfortunately, you know, it's creeping up on 2 years later, and I was in the same situation. Even as a different Enneagram personality type, we're still going to, as human beings, respond to that in such a negative way that we don't feel like ourselves for a really long time afterwards.
Yeah. Here, Dave, real quick. My phone, it's like blinking. So let me just grab this wire real quick. All right, I'm back. Sorry.
Good. So during that,
I'm back.
so during that long-term unhealthy narcissistic relationship, and being gaslighted on all the time, you know, just constantly made to feel as if like you were in the wrong for accusing somebody else of in inappropriate behavior. You feel yourself backsliding into like less than optimal mental health during that time?
Oh yeah, I mean, it was major depression. It was like it was a mental and physical pain at the same time when it first happened. Um, it was not knowing what to believe when anyone told you anything. And so like, what I do now, like with the podcast, the comedy, all this other stuff, I was made fun of that for years, and that was put on a hold, and I lost my sense of self. And so now I have it. Now I can do whatever the hell I want. I mean, I make fun of being awkward all the time, which I am, and I have no problem with it. I own it. But at the time, it was really rough. You know, when you're sitting there and you want to do something that you love, and you have some prick sitting there telling you that you're a pile of shit because you are who you are.
Yeah.
And so it takes a lot of time to get over that. And once you finally do, it's almost like you're reborn. You're just like, oh, finally, it's like, got my head back. I got my face, you know, I got my family back. I got everybody back. But there was a lot of time there where I was having to make up for the damage that was done. And I was a part of that problem as well, because I allowed it to happen to me. So I guess the best thing is to notice the signs. Once you notice the signs, get the hell out. Like, not run away from the person.
Yeah, it's so hard when you're being faced with that kind of behavior. And then also as an Enneagram type 3, to not deceive yourself, as in like, oh, you know what? I do actually believe this person in what they say about me. And
Right.
that's why you need to run from a situation that's so negative, that's so hurtful, that's so detrimental to your success as a human being, and then as your own self-worth as well.
Well, that's the thing about the number threes too, is like their good attributes can take them sky high, but the bad attributes, we know how to drag each other down, and we can be the most confident, like well-minded, you know, level-headed person in the world. I can also be the biggest depressed, isolationist, like reclusive person as well. And that's what I became. And so after reading the number 3 description, I read the good part of it. I was like, oh, this is great. That's awesome. But when you read the bad part, I was like, oh yeah, there's about 3 years of that stuff that I was dealing with and going into, and allowing somebody else to push me into this hole, which, I mean, it just, there's always good and bad to everything. The bad for the number 3 is 10 times worse is the good. So you just kind of have to go with both and navigate your way through both of them. So.
Yeah, without a doubt. And as I was like preparing for our conversation today, the first time we interviewed, I didn't know your Enneagram type. And now that I do, I wanted to learn more about you so I could have more grace and compassion for your experiences in that relationship. And what you're talking about now is like, you received a message that you weren't allowed to have any feelings or be yourself. And you must like be somebody that's accepted. And in respects, all of our personality types actually do that. But you in particular, because you heard that, you began to live it. And then you're seeking attention by performing in a certain way. So as if it was like your need to breathe, but it comes at a high price.
Right. Right.
Where does that hit you?
No, I mean, that's exactly right. My whole life is, I'm an attention whore. I need to be in front of people. I need to be performing. I need to be being an idiot, doing the awkward thing. I need to create feelings in other people, positive or negative, but I can't function when someone that's closest to you is sitting there telling you you're not worth it. You're an idiot. You're a jackass. You're stupid. You hear all that stuff over and over and over again, and before long you start to believe it. And rather than being in front of people and seeking that attention, you start becoming an isolationist. You don't want to be around anybody. You act weird around people because you're afraid you're going to get your head bit off, or you're going to say something where you're going to get more ridicule. And it's just a crazy thing. I really wish when I was 18 years old or when I was in high school, they would have taught something like this and how to see it and what to do when you encounter it. Because mental health, my show, it's called I Wish I Was Dead, and people are like, oh my God, but I always say the suicide prevention hotline on there and everything like that. There's a reason I do that, is because when I was at my lowest low, like, I needed to know that there was a group out there that are willing to sit there and talk to you and all this other stuff. They don't tell you this stuff when you're in high school or when you're learning in college, unless you're taking some psych course. And that's the thing that's so great about your podcast, is you bring stuff like this to light, because relationships, you're with that one person that means the most to you and can either build you up or destroy you. And not all cases you're built up. And I mean, a lot of cases, divorce is what, 50%? So half the people that are in relationships right now, half of them getting built up, the other half are being torn down. And so, like, you got to kind of put that in perspective. It's kind of, it's a good thing that you have this podcast, because you highlight the good and the bads of a relationship and starting a relationship and dating. But the thing that people need to know is, if you're in a bad relationship, get the fuck out. That person wants to destroy you, and that person that person misses you and doesn't want to be without you, but they don't want to be with you either. And so that's the biggest thing about being with narcissists is, yeah, they might say, you can't leave me, I need to be around you, but they don't want you fucking there either. They just don't want you to be with anybody else, because they're such fucking narcissists that they're like, you don't deserve anybody but me, but I don't even want you, so you're going to be my little bitch. And that's my take on that.
I don't think you're wrong. And it took you 2 years to even recover from the mental anguish and the abuse that you experienced in that relationship. And then how long after that 2 years did you meet Eric?
2012. 2 years after that.
2 years. So 4 years total. And then you met a partner who, what does it feel like now?
Well, he's the one that got the podcast thing. He bought me the microphones. He actually cleared out this room for me. He's building the studio for me. He's right there along with everything I do. Pays for. Here's another thing that you need to realize too. If you're in a relationship with somebody that's making just as much money as you, and you're not at least going Dutch on everything or splitting everything, but you're still paying for fucking everything, and they're making just as much money, get out of that too. They're an asshole. So
they're definitely taking advantage of you. That's for sure.
Right. So it's the first time in my life I've actually been with somebody where like we split the bills, like completely half. Sometimes he pays more, sometimes I pay more. It's a partnership, like business partnership, romantic partnership, best friend. It's the one thing I've always wanted. He's not real talkative, which is even better because me being the center of attention and in your face and obnoxious, it works out great. So he can sit there and be a good guy half the time. But I mean, it's like, you got to go find your, the yin to your yang. And if you got two yins or two yangs, it's not going to work. So.
Yeah, the polarity of why we're attracted to our preferences. Oftentimes, the suggestion is steer far and clear away from your preferences because it's maybe your biology that's attracting you to that person that gives you so much chemistry. And then that's what leads us down to the attachment to a narcissist in the beginning, because they're so charming and they're so wonderful, and they treat you with so much attention.
Yeah.
And they praise you in the beginning, but then as soon as they flip in their mindset, then it becomes the gaslighting situation. And no, it's not me, it's you that's wrong here. And for an achiever type, being self-deceitful is one of the lower ends of optimal health, one of those tendencies when you are beaten down by a partner.
Yeah, and you get dark and you tell yourself dark things. I've never been suicidal. But I do the suicide prevention hotline on my show because I know there's people that are in those situations where it's just one step away from where they're at. And I wish I was dead is not because I wish I was dead. It's because it's embarrassing, and in the moment you can just die. So I just want to specify that. But no, you're totally right. When you have a personality type where you're an attention whore and you got to be in front of the camera, you got to be the funniest person, or you got to be center of attention all the time, and someone keeps stealing that away from you, yeah, you don't go up the scale, you go directly down the scale to the bottom. And I got to say, like, at the end, I was one step away from the very bottom of that, and it was the most unhealthy emotionally I've ever been. So,
and coming out of it, did you feel like you were afraid of failing or humiliation in front of your peers, your family, for maybe not having a successful relationship or being exploited?
Yeah, no, you feel exploited, you feel vulnerable, you feel like you've been like through the ringer, you're beyond humiliated. Not because of you, but because of what this person's out there doing. And that, even after 10 years, you didn't mean shit to them, and the reason I was so humiliated is all my friends and family saw it, and they were hinting, but they didn't want to get involved, and they didn't want to piss me off, or they didn't want me to cut them off or whatever. And, once it was over, then everyone's like, yeah, we always knew he was a piece of shit, or we always knew he was an asshole, and we always knew this, and we always knew that, but we didn't want to get in the middle of it because we didn't know, all this other stuff. And I appreciate that. I just wish I had that one friend that would have been like, the guy's a son of a bitch, get the hell out of there, run. That's all I needed, So, but yeah, you're very, like, for the first year, you're pretty much humiliated the whole entire year.
And then after that second year, you begin to start becoming more self-accepting, and you almost feel like that authenticity returns to you after the recovery period, after the healing phase, and then you're able to move on and put the past behind you.
Yeah, I went a little off the deep end though. I mean, like I said, I'm an attention whore. I like comedy. I like to make people laugh. So I was that guy, the obnoxious guy at the party that was always in front of everybody, trying to get the comedy thing going and everything like that. So I felt like it emotionally stunted me, and to a point where I finally started to get over it, where I exploded. And it was like I was trying to make up for lost time. And I kind of came off as kind of a crazy, weird ass guy, or just, this guy is just nuts. Not in a bad way. I would say it was in a cute way, but it's me that's saying that. But no, but I did kind of go kind of nuts, and wanted to be funny all the time, always telling jokes, always going crazy. And that lasted for a couple months before I was like, dude, like, get your shit together. You can go out and just have a normal conversation with somebody and you can be fine. So yeah, it's kind of it's like this, at first it's way low and you're just trying to work up, and then it goes like this, and then you level off. So.
Sure. Something like you would do whatever it takes to preserve an illusion.
Yes. Anything to preserve attention, anything to get people to laugh, like anything in the world to just be noticed and have some kind of positive interaction with somebody. You go so long where you don't have that at all, and everything's just so stunted. I mean, and life is so brown. There's no other color. It's not gray. It's not black and white. It's just brown. And then you finally start getting up to the point where you can start seeing colors again, and you start seeing reality, and you start enjoying yourself again. But yeah, when you're with the narcissist, and this is the thing that I was trying to say earlier, people need to know that when you're getting gaslighted and you're with the narcissist, and when things stop making sense, this person is no longer your friend or your partner or your boyfriend or your girlfriend. This person is your enemy, and they don't give a shit about you or anybody else but themselves. And it's in a form of abuse is what it is. And so I would have to say that, like, I was emotionally abused for about 10 years. And there was some physicality to that too. The only thing is that the son of a bitch would start stuff with me and I'd beat his ass. But I mean, that being said,
yeah, you're not a small person. I mean, you've got some size on you.
Well, no, I mean, like, if you're going to go and headbutt somebody, make sure you knock them down. Just don't give them a black eye, because they'll come back at you crazy. So white eye. But no, but I mean, it's stuff like that where it's just like, it is a form of abuse, and these people are abusers. They need help, just like you need to get out of it. Bottom line.
Yeah, that's actually really well said. And after you do your healing period, and after you understand that it was no longer about you, it was more about the other person, you begin to get more energy, and that self-esteem comes back, where you believe in yourself and you understand your own value. And then what I think I heard you saying in there is, like, by showing up in front of other people again, you're kind of adapting, and you're becoming more desirable, and you begin to charm yourself and charm others in such an authentic way after that healing period is over with.
Yeah, because then people can start seeing your happiness coming back. You know, you're not trying to hide from everything. And that, I guess that's where, when I said that, like, when I started going out again, I was going nuts. It was because I was so stunned and so on the opposite realm where I didn't want to see people, that I was overcompensating at first. But then you start to level out. What everyone needs to understand is you're going to make an ass out of yourself when you first start going out after a breakup with someone like that. Just deal with the first couple months of being an ass. And then once you start to level out, you'll start being fun with it. Look, anything you do 2 or 3 months ago, no matter how embarrassing it is, how awkward it is, how awful it is, and I can tell you this because I do it on an everyday basis, tomorrow morning I'll wake up and it's in the past, and I'm moving forward to make even more awkward, embarrassing, stupid shit to happen today. You know, like, I don't know if that's motivational or not, but you learn to live with it. That's all I'm trying to say.
I think you're spot on, though, because at your best as an achiever personality type, that self-deprecating humor is so charming. And, like, even as you talk about yourself in such a way, you're just like, you're winning us over because of that ability to bring humility to the table. And that self-assuredness is really kind of attractive to people who are around you.
Oh, well, thank you, Dave. I appreciate that. You're
Not
spot
meant
on.
That was not meant to be a compliment.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm just kidding. It
absolutely
was. It was absolutely a compliment. And I know that, like, this was a really difficult conversation. So thank you so very much for being transparent and vulnerable. That's what we're all about around here. It's definitely something I've had to learn through other people and through our guests, that vulnerability is okay and it's a strength.
Vulnerability, yeah. And you know what? Not all of your defects, I always say, make some of your defects your assets. Not everyone's got positive attributes. And in fact, some people, some of their negative attributes, it can be just as attractive as their positive ones, as long as you're not a dick. But, like, you know what I mean? Like me with the awkward thing, me with the goofy thing, you know? Focus on that sometime. You know, if you get a laugh out of somebody, that's all that matters. So.
Yep. I'm with you on that one, man. I got some really good advice a few weeks ago. I was like, turn your greatest weakness into your greatest strength. And for me, that's vulnerability. And you've got it in spades.
There you go.
Well, if there's anything coming up for you, how can people get a hold of you, or what do they need to tune into, maybe on the podcast or in your comedy?
So what we're doing right now with the podcast, since it is October and we got next week is Halloween, we're going to start our creepy, I call it the creepy crawly series, where I found some stories online and some friends have told me creepy pasta kind of stuff, weird shit. And I'll just give you a preview. There was a guy that was a trucker who used to take his trailers or whatever to rural places in the middle of the night. It was his route in order to get there before the business opened. Well, he had to park in this parking lot one night, and he was waiting for the place to open so he could unload the trailer, and he got there about 3 o'clock in the morning. They weren't going to be there for another half an hour. Well, he fell asleep in his front seat, and he was woken up by this dog barking. And it was in the distance, and then it slowly got closer and closer, and the dog was barking. So he's like kind of facing the inside of his cab, and he kind of turns around to this driver's side window, and there's a 30-year-old man standing on the side of his truck barking at him through the window. Through the fucking window! I mean, how scary is that shit? So, like, that's the kind of stuff that we're going to be focusing on. Those little stories, like the creepy-ass stories where you're like, what the? And he said the guy was just sitting there barking, and then the guy eventually got down and ran away. But since it's Halloween and it's October, we're going to start doing creepy, like, awkward, weird stories where it's, like, not only creeped out, but it's awkward. What do you do? Like, you know what I mean? So, stuff like that. If you want to listen, check us out on Spotify, Apple. We're on all your podcast places. It's called I Wish I Was Dead. That's DED, figuratively, of course. If you want to send us an email, it's I Wish I Was Dead, DED podcast@gmail.com. You can also look us up on Facebook. Dave and I are always on each other's pages, so if you ever see my goofy bald head, Uncle Fester looking ass pop up, you just go ahead and click my picture and you'll find everything out that you need to know about me. So Yep.
I really appreciate your authenticity and your transparency today, Neil. And I can't wait to get back onto the I Wish I Was Dead podcast, because as a guest a couple of times over now, I've enjoyed each and every conversation that we had. And always want to bring my Dr. Drew A game when I come speak to you and your community.
We love having you. Definitely. You do bring a insight that a lot of us goofy assholes don't really think of on an everyday basis, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, we definitely come at it from a different angle here, from a mental health aspect paired with relationships, because that's where I've always seen my repeated patterns arise, is in my relationships. And instead of getting frustrated with relationships ending the way that I didn't want them to end or end at all, I decided to do something about it. And it's been far more rewarding and a bigger surprise in my life than I ever could have imagined.
That's awesome, man. Well, more power to you, and keep doing what you do. We appreciate you.
Thank you very much, Neil. I appreciate it. Let's get together soon.
Definitely, buddy. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks.